Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. We are live. So get involved in the chat and the comments. Loads of Manchester United news to talk about. Obviously, still focusing on a little bit of the fallout from Bilbao. Just got back last night myself after a bit of a magical mystery tour via Barcelona and a long drive from there as well. And yeah, saw the papers, seen the news. Are players for sale? Is the whole squad for sale? What next for Ruben? We're going to be getting into all that, so make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Big thank you to everyone supporting the channel, and I hope that for those of you who are getting back or were getting back from Bilbao, you had a safe trip, and those of you who weren't, those of you who just had to endure it from wherever you watch the game, that you're recovering mentally from the trauma of watching us lose a final to Spurs. We out-Spursed Spurs, and apologies to anyone who was insane enough to listen to me, who got very confident that for some reason that United were going to win. I actually thought, there's no way Spurs will beat us 4 times in a season. Well, I was wrong, and they did, and they have. Anyway, enough. Let's move on. Loads of people in the chat as well. Andy Smith says you'd be lucky to get a Twix and a packet of Starburst, talking about some of the squad. We're going to be getting into that. Also, Bob Relf says, it's madness. All season, our players have been told, you're not good enough. You can't play my system. You're all up for sale. We need to win the Europa to buy better players than you. Some team talk. Harry Potter is in there. He says, I'd keep Ahmad, Bruno, Yoro, Kobe, Dorgu. Sell the rest, in my opinion. He also says, bring up the youth. Evan Soul says, morning all. Santa Notch is here. We got to make sure we bring in experience and leadership, though, not just youth, if everyone's for sale. Someone at the ground in Bilbao was chatting to me, watched the channel, and they mentioned Santa Notch. Said, oh, it's always good to see Santa Notch in the chat. He always comments, so big shout out to Notch. Let's talk about this story then. Yeah, this is the one. I want to sort of move it forward, because this was from yesterday afternoon, I think. This is from the Mirror, and it says basically that Manchester United put every player up for sale as catastrophic financial reality laid bare. Now, we've had these kind of stories before, and I will say this. I think that technically every player is for sale. Now, there's a difference between putting every player up for sale and every player being available. Now, this is from Disco Dave McDonnell. He said that Manchester United will listen to offers for every player in the wake of their disastrous Europa League final defeat. No player will be immune from being sold, including captain Bruno Fernandes, as United face up to a catastrophic financial black hole. We know, we mentioned it countless times on this channel, the fact that the Champions League was going to be this sort of magic bullet that saved us financially, that we were going to be able to buy players because of it and not make as many cuts as we've been making. However, we haven't got Champions League football next season, as you all know. So now we have to look at selling perhaps more players than we originally planned. I always think that every player's kind of got a price tag anyway, especially under Ineos and the Glazers. If someone was to come in with big money for any player, I'd expect Manchester United to at least listen to that offer, including Bruno Fernandes. We know he's been linked with Saudi recently. We're going to get into a little bit more of that slightly later. Akash K says, I bet you can compile an entire Netflix series from all keep-sell videos from the last decade. So many failed rebuilds, so much money wasted. I want to cry. I get you. I feel your pain. I do. I feel like crying at times. BMW Racing 1974 says Bruno and Ahmad need to stay. Heaven Soul says you got to always consider offers for any player. Obviously, most won't want to be reasonable and dismissed, or so, and most won't be reasonable and dismissed. We just have to actually replace them. That's the big thing, isn't it? If we sell players, you have to make Manchester United as a team, as a club, better in the long run. That's why you sell footballers. You don't, you might have to sell them, but if you're going to sell them, you go, okay, that money is worth it to sell that player because we can spend that money better or on better players or improving the squad or whatever. I still feel, for me, and by all means, I want you to get involved in this conversation, that the jury's a little bit out with Ineos and their signings and their transfers, because we know that under the Glazers, under Richard Murtaugh, under Ed Woodward, on Eric Ten Hag's watch, a lot of the signings were disastrous. We wasted a lot of money. We overspent a lot of players. We bought players that didn't have the right profile. We bought players in positions we didn't really need. We bought players who were past their best. We bought players who couldn't handle playing for Manchester United. We bought players that didn't want to be here. We bought all the wrong players, pretty much consistently. Ineos came in, and I think a lot of the signings under Ineos have been better. I like Lenny Yoro. I think he's a very good player. I think he's one for the future. I think he was one of the few, if not the only one, who could really emerge from the other night with his head held high. I like Mazraoui, a bargain, a gamble, if you can call it worth a gamble, worth taking at that price. I think there was no sort of dramas there. Very cheap. The question marks perhaps were around his injury record. He's played over 50 games this season. I mean, he's almost been worth it just for that, considering what we paid for him. De Ligt, I think he's a good player. I know he's got a few injury issues. We missed him on Wednesday night, but I understand why we made that signing, and I'm glad we did because I like him. Xerxes, there's a player there. Is he going to end up staying at Manchester United in the long run? I don't know. I like Xerxes. Happy belated birthday to him. Maka loves him. I understand why. On the ball, very entertaining. Doesn't get you a lot of goals. There's a player there. I can understand it. Your guy is a weird one. It felt like Erik ten Hag didn't want him. Ineos did, or whoever was calling the shots, Jason Wilcox or whoever. Ruben Amorim comes in, he worked with a guy before, didn't play him in a final. Biggest game of the season, doesn't get off the bench. It's a weird one with Ugarte. I think if Casemiro does end up moving on, Ugarte probably will stay and get more minutes. I'm not saying he's going to leave, but will get more minutes and probably will become a regular player. I feel like the jury's out a little bit on Manuel Ugarte. I feel like we can say that on maybe one or two. Maybe you can say that on Xerxes as well. So that's better as a window than we've seen under the Glazers. But I still feel like Ineos have got to sort of prove themselves in the transfer market. So if they are going to sell players, this is what I'm getting at. If we are going to sell players that perhaps we don't even want to sell, but we need the money, we have to reinvest that money properly. There can be no more mistakes at Manchester United, no big mistakes. We've had too many of them, and it has cost us gravely, and that is why we're in this pickle. John Nodder says, it's 2-3 years before this project shows through. That's too late for Bruno. Would keep Casemiro as a mentor for young midfield. Get Gomez back. Him, Ugarte and Kobe develop as a 3. Mick Holohan says, scouts and recruitment need to earn their money now. Jay, I completely agree with that, mate. They do. This is on them. They've got to come up with some decent players at reasonable prices. Sound like some sort of salesman. Decent goods at reasonable prices. Yeah, they have. They've got to do much better. Harry Hatchell says, yes, Jay, loving it from Melbourne, as always. Thank you, Harry. Love Melbourne. Was great being over there. Geordie Pilling says, lovely to see your back safe, Jay. How was sunny Spain, apart from the game? Yeah, we've got a vlog coming out of our members section. You can go and check that out. But it was good, man. Listen, I love watching United, even when United are poor, not just because of the actual game. Meeting Reds, meeting up with mates, did all that. It's always great travelling as well. We did a little bit, so went via Barcelona, had to drive from Barcelona and back again. So many great people out there. Met a lot of, top people and great United fans and people that watch the channel as well. It's always a pleasure when people sort of say, oh, we watch Stretford Paddock, we like what you guys do. So I do appreciate that as well. Brian Casey says, Jay, we need Senji, some Parks and Evander Sarr. We certainly need some players like Ji-Sung Park in terms of energy and effort, because I feel like that has been lacking as well as quality, to be fair. Let's talk about Bruno Fernandes. This is in the Mirror as well. The summer transfer window is almost open, with Premier League teams desperate to boost their squads for next season. Manchester United's failure to win the Europa League may have a catastrophic impact on their chances to do major business. So we know about this is the sort of stuff. And then it says about the Bruno Fernandes rumours. The midfielder has now been linked with an exit from Old Trafford as the club desperately tried to raise funds. And then it goes on to talk about Arsenal. So yeah, it's mentioning Bruno there. He has been, you can get rid of that. He has been linked with a move to Saudi. The word noise is that United aren't going to sell him. I don't know. It's difficult now, innit? Because when you say it's difficult, I don't want us to sell Bruno Fernandes. I'm sticking with that opinion. But I think because the final was so bad, because Bruno didn't have a good game, now the sort of just that one game can change the mindset of certain people and the narrative around it all. And people can go, actually, if we did get some good money for him, maybe it is worth selling a 30-year-old for big money, because then we can reinvest it. So, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a shift there, but I don't want to see us lose Bruno Fernandes. I think this club would be in much, much worse situation without Bruno Fernandes. We've probably been relegated this season if we didn't have Bruno, genuinely. People might laugh at that, but I think it's true. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Emil Gage says we'd be a championship team without Bruno. Adam W says the club was cursed when we sold Pastor Fred. Laughing emoji. I don't think you need to put a laughing thing at the end of that, or the XD. I think, I don't know about cursed, but I think we're missing Fred. We've got a story here about financials from The Guardian. Amorim gets almost 100 million transfer budget to start Manchester United rebuild. There was a time when 100 million for a summer transfer budget would have been loads of money, and you'd have been like, wow, we can go out and buy all the players. However, if we spend 62.5 million on Matheus Cunha, which we are going to do, everyone agrees on that. It's pretty much a done deal. I'd be amazed if that didn't happen. It wasn't reliant on Champions League money. The player wasn't bothered. Well, we weren't bothered, but he wasn't only going to come if we made the Champions League. So losing on Wednesday night should not affect that deal whatsoever. If we then add Liam Delap for 30 million, That would be 92.5 million, quick maths, if I'm right. So there's your 100 million already. That's it. It's done. Now, the question is, if we sell Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Anthony, and maybe Garnacho, who I'm going to get into in a minute, who seems to be sort of burning down the village on the way out, doesn't he? He's more or less doing everything you can without putting in a transfer request to get a transfer with his comments post-match. Then maybe you can bring in 40, 50 million at a push for Alejandro Garnacho. Does anyone think we could get that for him? Young player, 20 years old, played a lot of Premier League football, is an entertaining player, an exciting player. I think you can get decent money for him, maybe a little bit more. I've said before, we want to sell Garnacho. I know I'm massively in the minority now. I think everyone's turned against him. But if you could get, let's say, 50 million from Garnacho, then you've got another 50 odd million to spend on someone else. Who would that be? We've been linked with a few players, haven't we? Maybe bring in another striker. Do we need two strikers? Maybe you bring in someone like Edison from Atalanta. I don't know. Maybe it's good you go for someone like Branthwaite. You add a defender to the squad. Let me know. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Excuse me, that's my laptop making a load of noise. Jiggers O'Toole says, is Cunha as good as Xerxes? I'm not sure. I think he is. I think he's better. I think he certainly gets you more goals and assists than Joshua Xerxes. That's my take on it. Salvita Breeder says, not true, Jay. Cunha deal is amortised, so divide his fee by 3. Divide his fee by 3, but you're still paying the 62.5 million, aren't you? Maybe there's a little bit more there, but I'm not so sure. Selling Bruno is high risk, high reward move, says Akash K. Jay and Joe's adopted son Benjamin says, Højlund got 16 goals and scored in the Champions League. Delap underwhelming. Not a lot of love for these transfers, is there? Hey, people questioning them before they've even arrived. I get it. I understand. You probably want someone with a bit more experience, with a bit more pedigree. But this is where we're at the minute. Can United afford to go out and spend 60, 70, 80 million pound a striker? Probably not. Maybe someone like Jonathan David could come in on a free. He has got 20 plus goals consistently, hasn't he, over the last 3 seasons. Let me know what you think. Let's talk about Garnacho. This is from Team Talk. The price Manchester United will sell Alejandro Garnacho for has been confirmed after multiple sources stress an exit is coming, while Team Talk has learned one club already preparing a substantial bid or prepping a substantial bid. Garnacho obviously said what he said. I think we've already covered this. He's been on social media. I think his brother's been on social media. Oh yeah, you can see what he says. Until we reached... His brother went on social media, I think in an interview, Garnacho said, until we reached the final, I played every round and I played 20 minutes a day. I don't know. I'm going to try and enjoy the summer and see what happens next. He's not happy, is he? He's not a happy bunny. I get it. I understand why he's unhappy. Look, listen, I'm not saying I agree with his comments. I don't. But I understand if he played as many games as he has, consistently played. I mean, his performance has been consistent. I mean, he's always played under Ruben Amorim. Ever since the sort of Manchester derby seems to have turned it around and become one of the manager's favourites, if you will. And then to only get 20 minutes in a final would be frustrating. I understand why he's annoyed, but I don't think giving interviews like that is the right way to go about it. If you've cheesed off, go and chat to the manager. Go and let him know. Say, look, why didn't I make the starting 11? Why did I not get more than 20 minutes? I'd be the same if I was Kobbie Mainoo. I'd be annoyed. He got 10 seconds of normal time. That's ridiculous to me, that. It wasn't working. We should have changed it. I think we can all agree on that. And I think someone like Garnacho and like Mainoo should have got more minutes. I think we should have made subs earlier, and I certainly don't think we should have been bringing on someone with 10 seconds of normal time left when we're losing a football match. That's my opinion anyway. You may disagree. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Adam Kenny says, we'll be lucky to sell half of those. Talking about players we're going to try and sell. NJO says, both of them better as impact subs. When they start, it's just as bad. You can make a case for that. I think Kobbie Mainoo is a talented player. I don't think he's had a great season this season because of injury, but I still think there's a talent there. Garnacho, I don't mind him being an impact sub. The only criticism I've had with that idea, I don't think it's a bad idea, played him as a sub in the final, was I would have just given him more minutes. I could see it wasn't working. I think everyone could. I heard Rio saying he thought the same, and he was chatting to footballers that are around him, and everyone was saying the same thing. Where I was in the ground, everyone was saying the same thing, sort of screaming at Amorim, come on man, make some changes. I think he left it a little bit too late. I mean, it's not the only reason we lost. There's a multitude of reasons we lost, but I would have liked to have seen some of those substitutes get a little bit more time. Sierra Delta Echo says, Bruno has been our best player for years. In the final against Tottenham, he gave the ball away, which led to their goal. Losing the ball in the final third is different to losing it in your own half. Yeah, look, Bruno he's been our best signing post Alex Ferguson, and one underwhelming game or one poor game, even if it is a final, doesn't change that. I love Bruno Fernandes, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. In the Independent, there's talk about Amorim's future. Manchester United give full backing to Ruben Amorim ahead of crucial even summer rebuild. Despite overseeing United's worst season in decades, including defeat in the Europa League final, Amorim will send the team into next season, or will lead the team, into next season. You can see there, it says Ruben Amorim still has the full backing of Manchester United and will not be sacked despite the defeat in the Europa League final. That means this will be their worst season for decades. I don't expect him to be sacked this summer. I think he'll be given next season. The only question is what happens if next season doesn't go as expected. If Manchester United lose a lot of games, especially early doors, do Ineos stick with Ruben Amorim? Now, I would. My sort of default setting is to back the manager, and I certainly think this manager needs more time. I've not lost faith in him. Yes, I think he made a mistake in the final, but I don't think it's a sackable offence. However, Ineos, are they going to be patient? Would they give him time? If, let's say, by Christmas we're in the bottom half of the table, would they consider that acceptable? Or would they say, no, we want better, especially if he's been back somewhat in the summer transfer market? Let me know what you think. Ben Hodgson says, next season, top 8 finish. Daniel Woodgate says, Jay, you are a legend. Good morning, mate. Thank you. Stephanie Griffith says, this could be the wake-up call. We need bluff jobbers. This could be the wake-up call we needed. Bluff jobbers have been found out. Bluff jobbers. Make sure you're hitting like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, I mean, maybe it is. Sometimes you need to hit rock bottom, right? Yeah, we'll talk about this when you quit boozing and taking drugs. I know, I'm a recovering addict. About hitting rock bottom. And I think had we won the Europa League final, I'm not saying I didn't want to win it. Obviously, I went there to watch United win. Maybe that would have papered over a few cracks. I think now we have fully hit rock bottom here. Only just being above the bottom 3. Losing a final to Spurs. Not doing anything else in the other cup competitions. Losing to Spurs in the Carabao and getting knocked out of the FA Cup at home to Fulham. It's disgraceful. That is rock bottom. And this is maybe what we needed. A proper rock bottom wake-up call. Because last summer, we were still slightly positive after the FA Cup final when thinking things aren't that bad. We've just beat City in the FA Cup final and won a trophy. This summer, there's going to be none of that. There's going to be no positives to take from this season. Seriously, there are 0 positives to take from this season. It has been completely and utterly disastrous. That should be our rock bottom that we bounce back from, that we get moving forward from. We acknowledge how bad we are. We realise how bad we are. We realise the drastic action that needs to happen, and we start replacing some of this squad. We cannot go into next season with more of the same, as we'll end up with more of the same on the pitch. Andre Onana, let's talk about him. This is in the Daily Mail. Andre Onana hits new low as, I mean, I don't like they did this yesterday afternoon, but they could have done it, yesterday morning. As soon as the game finished, it was a fact, wasn't it? Hits new low as goalkeeper sets humiliating record after Manchester United's crushing Europa League final defeat to Spurs. He already set a record, I think, anyway, of being the first, I think it was the first player or first goalkeeper, I think it was, to play in 3 different European finals for 3 different clubs. He's now lost all 3 of them, which is unfortunate. However, I am going to defend him slightly on that record because one was for Ajax against United, and I think United were favourites for that game, and rightly so. And one was for Inter against City, and I don't think he had a bad game for against Manchester City in the Champions League final when he played for Inter. I think he did very well, so I don't think it's his fault that Inter lost that game. I don't think he particularly covered himself in glory for us against Spurs with that goal that they scored. Big question marks about Andre Onana. I said a few weeks ago that I could imagine a way in which Amorim, who's got a lot of areas to address within the squad, might look at the goalkeeping situation and go, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with Onana unless he does something drastic in the final. One game can, in a manager's mind, change things a little bit. We saw it with David De Gea with the FA Cup final. It felt like that made Ten Hag determined to bring in a new goalkeeper. Was Onana's performance in Bilbao bad enough for Ruben Amorim to say, you know what, I cannot have this guy between the sticks for me next season? I'm not so sure. I still think Andre Onana will be our keeper next season. Let me know what you think. Other debates going on. Akash K says, Jay, can we really say this is rock bottom when the Glazers are still here? Well, yes, I think we can. I think the fact the Glazers are still here does make it a rock bottom. Matthew Baker says you need 3 or 4 plans a game against Premier League teams, and they need to be custom. You can't play one-way of football and be successful. Amorim will get United relegated next season. Wow, big shout there from Matthew Baker. Let me know what you think your predictions are for next season. Do you think United will be all right next season? Do you think we can bounce back from this? Do you think we are in serious trouble? Do you think relegation is even something we can entertain? We finish in 16th or 17th this season. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that a team that finishes 16th or 17th one season can finish 18th the next season. It's happened lots and lots of times. It's just never happened for a club the size of Manchester United. Certainly not in the Premier League era as well either. I know United have been relegated before, but I mean the Premier League era, could it happen? Is that just being silly, or is it time to sort of get real about where we're at? You know, the league table doesn't lie. We say it all the time. We are right near the bottom of the table for a reason, and that is because we've been poor all season. We sacked Erik ten Hag because we were poor. We brought in Ruben Amorim, and we've remained poor. And I'm not having a dig at the manager. I'm just saying the facts are we've not improved in the Premier League at all, and we need to fix it. There's going to be a protest at the game on Sunday against Aston Villa. This is from the 1958. I think they've organised it. So I think if you scroll down, Ben will be able to see a little bit more of the details. So there you go. Starts on Sir Matt Busby Way, the junction with Chester Road. At 3 p.m, form behind a large banner and queue down Warwick Road. Head to Old Trafford. We stop on the forecourt. Bring the heat, bring the noise, bring the passion. Yeah, I wish the players would bring some more passion, to be honest with you. So get involved in that protest if you can. This is about the Glazers, it's about the ownership. It's 20 years almost to the day that the Glazers took over at Manchester United, and other than the sort of the genius of Sir Alex Ferguson and the way he was able to sort of keep the club successful, and the fact that when they took over we still had a very, very good squad indeed, it's been a bit of a disaster on it, and it's all happened on their watch, and it's because of them, a lot of it. Not all of it, but a lot of it. In fact, I'd say all of it. It all leads back to them. Let's talk about the England squad. This won't take long. The England squad, no Manchester United players in it. That's quite rare. It is. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not particularly bothered whether Manchester United players are in the England squad or not. Half the time when United players are in the England squad, it just leads to drama and heartache and anger from rival fans, and it just causes a load of nonsense that United don't need to be dealing with. But it is a bit of an indication of how far we done fell, that we can't even have any players in the England squad. We have got English players. Yes, you could argue that some of them haven't been fit that long. Mainoo's been in and out of the team this season because of injury. Maguire, I thought he might have made the England squad, but he hasn't. Luke Shaw only came back recently. Mason Mount, again, he suffered from injuries. So it's not a massive shock that those players didn't make the squad, but it wouldn't have surprised me had any of them, some of them, one of them made it as well. Thank you to everyone who got involved in that discussion. Thanks to Stephanie Griffiths as well, pointing out we need more likes. Give us a like. We're going to be back later on today. We've got the brew. We've got a special guest for that. Uncle Webby is coming in for that one, so don't want to miss out on that. Make sure you're hitting like, share and subscribe. And like I said earlier, we're going to have a bit of a vlog going up on the members section, behind the scenes vlog of our trip to Bilbao. Obviously, the game was terrible, but there was some fun to be had on the way as well. So hit like, share and subscribe. I'm Jay. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.